Oh, yeah. Podcast episode 050.
Congratulations. The big 50. Don't take this literally with all the cigars and stuff.
What's that?
Don't take it literally with the cigars burning things down.
We're going to be that cloud here.
It's all good.
So we picked this song because of what we're talking about today with Joshua Pietrocini, VP of Operations at TTX. We're talking about a book called Predictably Irrational.
Yes, sir.
The hidden forces that shape our decisions. And we love this. Talking Heads had a couple of good songs that were about, like, yeah, don't be stupid. You're doing stupid stuff. You're going down some weird road.
Yep.
You know, this one here, you know, burning down the house, making weird decisions from weird reasons. This book, Predictably Irrational, what's the author? Dan Ariely.
Is that how you say it?
That's how they said it on the podcast, on the
audiobook.
audio. Yeah.
Ariely.
Yes. Very interesting. I wish he would have talked more about his experience being burned. And that was so weird at the very beginning.
He starts out like that.
Yeah. Just talking about I think he was in the military. He was in the Israeli military and got pretty seriously burned. And anyway, that was the beginning of the book. So, Joshua, welcome. Been wanting to talk to you for a while.
Awesome.
We've got some good smokes. Shane's smoking his pipe. What are you smoking there, Josh?
The deep dish. Drew Estates Acid Deep Dish.
Mm-hmm. And I've got a Cuba Grande by Acid, Drew Estates. My favorite of theirs is the Tobacco. At least that's how I
that's your go-to.
Yeah, the dark one.
My go-to is the Cuba.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cuba.
From them, yeah.
Yeah, it's all good.
I like
Deep
you,
dish is
you
I
said
think
the
the same
salt
thing, right?
It's the same. The blue label has a particular flavor. The Acid line. Blondie, and there's a couple others in there. Well, so you turned me on to this book, dude. That's why we're talking today.
Yes.
Primarily is, what was it, a month ago, maybe? You mentioned it, and I had gotten done reading something. What did I finish reading?
like 3 books you did all the same thing.
Yeah, I did The 6 Types of Working Genius. I finished that one. I finished that Thomas Sowell book. And I read something else in there. I'm going to look it up because it's going to bug me.
Right.
I got it on a list. I keep a list of everything I read.
Do you?
Just so I can gloat.
That's because you don't remember what you read.
Yeah, that's part of it.
You take in a lot of content, don't you?
I do. I try to.
Yeah.
It's super important.
It is important.
Yeah.
And, you know, to be blunt, I don't like doing it.
You don't like taking in content?
No. I like just making stuff up.
I want to talk about that a little bit.
All right.
Because I was thinking about this book in particular.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was just having a conversation with a colleague the other day, and I'm like you, man. I'm a learner, so I'm like taking in all this stuff, and primarily I'm listening to it. And then I end up buying the book anyway because I always want to look back at it. That's how I ingested this one. And I was thinking about it. Like, I don't read a lot of fiction. I know you do. Mm-hmm. I don't read a lot of fiction. I'm just kind of a slow reader. I should. I need to. I need to read more fiction. But I'm thinking, like, in 5 years from now, will I look back and like think of a book and say, like, oh, yeah, did you read that one? Yeah. And could I give you a 15-minute summary on it? I don't think so. Like, oh, yeah, I remember that one. I liked it. Here's a takeaway or two. And this one in particular, it's not like the book in and of itself, but I think the content of it is pretty important. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty important deal.
Yeah.
About decision making. So it's like this one, if we grasp some of the content and can figure some of these things out, like it could be a difference maker. But most of the books I'm reading are like leadership books, management books, self-help stuff, business stuff. But I need to get back into story. You You know, I'm in that season right now. It's like information overload.
Yeah.
I'm taking in so much content.
You should, if you like the audio, you should read Dune. Listen to Dune. What's his name? I can't remember the other.
Frank Herbert.
I know. I was going to say Herb something.
Yep.
Herb Frankfurt.
There's a older version. You got to get on a website. Listen to it on a website.
I have it.
It's a British guy. Well, I'll think of it in a minute.
Yeah.
I love the way he read it. It used to be, back in the day, I would get books on tape from the library, like in the 90s. And Dune, that's when I first read Dune. I was remodeling my kitchen one winter, like 99 or something.
Yeah.
2 remodels ago, by the way. And, you know, it's like 6 books tall, the stack of audio cassettes. It's like 47 cassettes or something.
Yikes.
But anyway, the guy that narrated it, George Guidall. That's his name.
Okay.
It's out of print.
Yeah.
But there's a website that still has the files up there.
Man, it's so good. It's just him reading it. There's no drama. Yeah. There's no music. There's no acting.
His voice.
Yeah. It's just him reading it.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's I need to change a pace like that too. Because especially with business type stuff, like, you know, I ingest it because I've got a lot of windshield time driving to and from work. So what I find though is I'm listening to this stuff, and this one in particular was a little bit tricky to read or to listen to because there's a lot of like case study and data, like you know where he's going through all the different case studies he's doing. There's a lot of like comparisons. So when like I always do, I go back and buy the book because I always want to look into it and refer back to stuff. And there's so many visuals in here that I'm like, oh, geez, you're missing all that on the audio. It's cool to take in, but I think I ingest it a little bit better when I actually read it.
Yeah, I agree. I can't get through nonfiction without listening. It's kind of, I have to, I can really grit my teeth and get through them. I just read Adam Grant, Think Again. That was the other one.
That's it.
Yeah, which was also very interesting. And, you know, it's funny because we're listening, reading so many of these over the years. I get little tidbits I think of it more as almost like priming the pump or almost like fertilizing my idea bank, so to speak. And I'll pull little nuggets out and then I won't remember where I got them but it just kind of keeps my brain sharp. Yeah. You know, it's very, very little of the books I read do I take a chunk or a major, and I'm not like a organized note taker in that sense. I'm definitely not highly specific about notes and so forth with books, but I wish I was.
I kind of am.
Yeah.
A little here and there.
Yeah.
Like I actually am looking through this thing right here when I was looking through my notes for this, but yeah, I use a OneNote. Yeah. So it's, you know, it syncs to my computer or my phone. So I'll pop it open when I'm driving and put some stuff in there and try to organize it, never get back to it.
Is that Microsoft?
Yeah.
Do you like it?
The OneNote? Yeah, it does what it does. It's convenient. Yeah, I mean, you can organize it pretty easily. It's different books, and then there's like chapters and pages and whatnot. So do you have it?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I can show you about it.
It's a little different from Evernote. It's got a little different format to it.
Yeah. There's a ton you can do with it.
Yeah. I've been using Trello so much that I have gotten away from the other apps. I found Trello is just the right. It's not meant to organize any of this stuff, you know. But
not like this,
it works great for me. It's just right
for tasks and stuff. It's great.
Yeah, but I tend to do stuff like for instance, I have a list of the books I read, and I just find that all I really need is lists. I don't need like documents. I need more like little. I think of my note taking is on like almost like sticky notes.
You still doing those infographic?
I do some, yeah.
I mean, like you had that subscription for a while.
Yes. Yep.
Those were cool.
And I wanted to get that on this book, but they didn't have it. Where we get it? What is it called?
Reading graphics.
Reading graphics. That's right. Mm-hmm. So we try to get as many of the business books as we can that way. And a lot of my clients really appreciate that, the summary, the PDF summary, and the info pictorial sort of thing. So I'm interested in a number of things here. First of all, your takeaways from reading this. So you turned me onto the book. Like I said, we got together about a month ago, and you're telling me this weird book with all these weird ideas.
Yeah.
And I got done with the 6 Types of Working Genius, Lencioni. Have you read that one, by the way?
I have not.
That's a good one.
Good one?
Well, it's, Lencioni's not going to win any literary awards, but he's really good at just pounding out a really simple idea or so in a practical way for a business.
What's your takeaway on that one?
Love it. I mean, I love it's a really simple kind of modality around getting organized. You would love for your team, by the way. The 6, do you remember the 6 types? So it's wonder, it starts with an I.
Without pulling it up.
Yeah.
I could pull it up.
Invention, wonder, invention, discernment. Those are my 3. And then there's tenacity.
Mm-hmm. You're doing really good here.
What's the helper one? Like it's a helper type. And then there's a confronter type.
Okay.
Can't think of.
What are they? Types of what?
They're just working geniuses, he calls it. So it's a really, really simple, very, very simplified way of saying, hey, you need these 6 kind of people
in your life or on your team?
Okay. Essentially in a team setting.
Oh, that's cool.
Whether it's a household or a business, but just think team.
Okay.
Getting stuff done. And he has a free, or like for $10 or $12.
It's $12 to do the assessment, so it's really inexpensive.
Yeah.
What's the assessment called?
6, the Working Genius.
Working Genius.
6 types of Working Genius. So you got wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing.
Galvanizing.
Enablement, and tenacity.
Yeah, enables the helper one.
And so you'll have 2 that are at your top, 2 in the middle, and 2 at the bottom.
Yeah.
So green, yellow, red, kind of.
Interesting.
And then it's kind of interesting how if you do it with a team, you would be able to see where everybody's coming from. And
I
get ready to
like
work
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And they've had so far, at least according to the version of the audio I listened to, 250,000 people take the test, and he's got all these stats.
Yeah.
It's very simple, 30-something questions. And it's kind of it's just his own observations about the teams he worked with and his own team and so forth. It's practical, it's easy, it's not like ridiculously scientific or anything like that, but it's very kind of cheap and good.
Did you guys take the test?
Mm-hmm.
The assessment?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I've, wonder,
invention.
Your
top
and
tier.
then what's the next one? Discernment is in there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm solid there. Galvanizing, probably have a touch of that, but not so much. And the other 2, I'm like, now who needs that?
Yeah.
Enablement.
Yeah, enablement. What's the other one?
Tenacity.
Have you figured out a way to implement it? Like, are you using it yet?
So
or?
Preston True, who we've had on here
Yeah.
a few episodes ago, and he's coming on again soon, is an ace in this. He's certified in this thing, and we're going to talk a bunch about it. And I don't really know practically what to do other than take the test. And it's very intuitive.
Okay,
it's easy stuff. But he's gonna talk about what to do about it. So it'd be a great kind of tool to throw in your toolkit.
Yeah, I dig that kind of stuff.
Now, before we get too far into the book, I want to ask you about your role at TTX.
Yeah.
So, I've been watching you for a while. How long have we been pals?
Since 2006,
Yeah.
I'd say.
Is it that far back?
I think so, man.
Yeah. Cool. Wow.
Yeah, I moved back from Michigan in 2006. I met you shortly thereafter when I was a young buck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while, buddy.
Yeah. So you've moved through a number of roles along the way.
Yep.
And then I started coaching in probably 2010 with your boss.
Yes.
By the way,
Yep.
Brandon Kenny, the one and only. So how long have you been VP of Ops?
3 years. Yep, 3 years there. So I moved back I was down in Savannah for a little bit, and then moved back end of 2017. And that's when I joined TTX at the end of that year as like a lead project manager. So I came in as lead project manager, had no idea about IT, had no experience in IT, but I was doing producing and project management. So that seemed like the most relevant spot to join the team. And we had some success there. And then I was eventually promoted to take over as director of project management. And I think it was probably like 2020, right around COVID. Brandon and the leadership team was talking to me about taking over ops. So stepped into that role, I think July of 20. And so I've, since then.
So project management is something that I see my clients all struggle with.
How come? What are they dealing with?
They just don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And they don't, they're not crisp about deadlines. They're not crisp about what done looks like.
Yeah.
They're dropping balls here and there. They've got people doing project management that are not maybe very organized. They don't know how they're making it up. Like they're literally all kind of recreating the wheel.
Yeah.
When it comes to project management.
Yeah, I get it.
They're just like, oh, we hired this person and we just kind of showed them what we do. And
yep.
It's like it's all homespun kind of cottage industry project managing. And it's all over the map from contracting to, medical stuff to transportation stuff to.
Are they looking for and trying to hire project managers?
Well, I don't think they are.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing is they think that's what they're doing, but they're just not very good at it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because project management is this generic term where people think it's just like this office manager or something. And we experienced that even a little bit when I came into TTX. Like they were homegrown. And the value is I was able to, it was kind of awkward. I came in as a lead PM without any IT experience with the team of folks I had who had all the goods, but they maybe didn't have like the resources or methodology or, the structure. And so I was learning the industry from them while equipping them with resources and lexicon and language and structure and all kinds of stuff. But project management is like, if you don't know what it is, you can look at it as this generic thing, but it's a career. Like people make a living doing this. It's like multi-certifications, and there are a lot of there's a lot of track work for folks who are making $150,000, $200,000 doing project management. There's a whole industry, but it's also it's such a generic term that depending on what your experience is, like you look at it without any stock. It's like, just because I own a camera, I'm not a cinematographer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's for starters. I mean, they should, it's a certain personality type too. I mean, like our PMs think, and luckily we've got really great PMs on our staff right now, and they're thinking in a different way. Their brains work a different way. They're looking from the end back. It's not just about putting together a bunch of tasks, but what I like to say to them is we lead. You're managing timelines, you're managing expectations, you're managing tasks, you're managing schedules, you're managing communication, you're managing risks. You're creating experiences, but you're leading people. So there's a lot there. It's not just like a glorified scheduler or something like that. There's a lot to it. You got a work plan, and there's some methodology that goes along with it. There's a framework. There's a whole host of resources. There's an entire industry to follow, like the 5 primary domains of project management. Within that, like you said, you use Trello. That's a Kanban style of task management, which is one of a lot of different kinds of tools that
talk about Kanban. I love it, by the way. And I got into Trello because of Kanban. I don't remember where I read about it for the first time. It might have been in that 2-Second Lean book. I think he mentioned, what's that guy's name? Can't remember his name now.
Akers?
Yes. Bill, maybe?
Something like that. I know
Paul.
Paul Akers.
Paul Akers. Have you seen that? 2-Second Lean?
Yeah.
It's a great little book.
Yeah.
He's got a bunch of great videos and stuff.
Yep.
And I think that's where I first came across the concept.
Kanban?
Yeah. And just sticky notes on a billboard or whatever it's called, whiteboard. I think that's what Kanban means, is like billboard
I don't know what it means.
or whiteboard or something.
Probably. It's basically set up as these, like your Trello, it's set up in these categories, these columns, and then you've got cards, and within the cards you can do all kinds of stuff, assign it to people. There's deadlines, there's tasks even within that. And I think first and foremost, finding a rhythm that works for you and your team, and establishing how you guys want to use it. Because, you can use it by days of the week. You can use it by domains of a project. It could be like initiation is the first one, or it can be by product. There's a lot of ways to do it, and you can get lost in the weeds if you don't establish a methodology. Yeah.
So talk about that for a minute. I had no intention of talking about Trello and Kanban and all that, but I think it's a huge gap in business organization, let's say, in an operating system. So when I talk about an operating system, I'm talking about like, all right, here, how do we operate here as a team? Often meetings stink, and deliverables kind of stink, and accountability kind of stinks, or it's kind of so-so. Clarity's kind of so-so, right? And so something like Trello, I try to get, I manage my clients that way, and I actually manage some of their, a number of my clients' kind of forward progress with Trello. But talk about the different ways to organize, because you got the board. Just think big old board and then lists, right?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. So you said you're managing things you're doing with your clients. So are you setting it up in such a way that like each client is its own board, each client is its own card? Okay, so it's its own board. Okay, so it's its own board, and then how have you set it up in terms of?
So I set it up as a business plan.
Okay.
A very simplified business plan.
Sure.
You could almost say, to me, this is like if you take something like EOS, for instance, in the VTO, which is a particular document in the 2-page business plan. So it holds in there, here's who we are, here's where we're going, here's some particulars about the business. So I use it as a really, really simple business plan landing spot. So one list, or the first list, a list on the board will be our land of awesome.
Okay.
So we do an exercise around, all right, folks, if we were to think about what must be true in 5 years or 7 years or a number of years in order for us to be great or way better. What must be true in 5 or 6 years?
And then those are your cards?
Yeah.
Boom, boom,
and so,
boom, boom, boom.
we work through an exercise, a land of awesome exercise that I do, and just get down to 5 or 6 major truths.
Okay.
So it might be, well, for TTX, it's 100% 5-star reviews from our employees' spouses. That's one of the truths, right?
It's one of the truths.
And so we'd put that on a card on the list. And so we'd have 4 or 5 or 6 bullet points. Each bullet point's a card. So then we could flip that card over, and I'll use the checklist component
within the card.
Yep. To just say, put a little meat on the bones, so to speak. What does this mean? This one bullet point. So it might be.
Are they objectives? Or are they goals within there?
They're just truths, as in, if we look this way, like this, then we did it. It's not a how, it's a where. So we're gonna walk to San Francisco. Great. How do we know when we get there? Well, we'll look around. These things will be true. We know we're not in Salt Lake City. We know we're not in Las Vegas. We're in San Francisco.
You've got a destination.
Yeah, because there's these brick steep hills with trolleys, and we could see this prison out in the water in the middle of the bay, and there's this great big bridge, and there's this fog, and and we might just say here there's these 5 or 6 or 7 truths. And then we'll go, oh, but it's way west of here, way west, and we're going to walk for a long, long time. But we'll know we're there when these things are true. It's not a how, it's not a when, it's a where. All right, and it's not a plan or anything like that. It's just like, if we look around, these things are true. We did it. We're there.
Yeah.
You know, so they're measurable. They're fairly measurable.
Okay.
But they're vague. They're dreamy. It's a vision. You know, it's not a recipe, so to speak. So that's the first list. So we'll do a list like that. Then we'll say, okay, where are we going to be next? If we're here now, we have such a revenue and staff and equipment and facilities and processes and recruiting and retention and sales and profit and all the various particulars. The big ones.
Yeah.
You know, the capital, the chapters.
Yeah. Not
chapter and verse so much, but just chapters. We say, if this is where we are now, what must we be next? So we're going to shove this business forward to version 2. We're in version 1 now. So version 2 looks like what? Well, we're going to have website 2.0. We're going to have a better website. Great. We're going to have better hiring. We're going to have better retention. We're going to have better training. We're going to have better, reviews from our clients. We're going to have a better profit. We're going to have savings. We're going to pay off some of that debt. And those are all things like, let's try to get this done in the next year and a half or so, year or 2.
Yep.
So I'll call that stepping stone 2, and that's the next list. Okay. So
the
each
next
one.
column?
Yep.
Okay.
On a board. So each one of those bullet points turns into a card. And then what I'm doing with the card is that we create a template for all the clients.
So it's client facing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So they're using it.
They're interacting with the cards.
That's
too.
right.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're sharing that board.
That's the other cool thing about it.
Yeah, I love that team component
Yeah.
of it, and it's not clunky.
No,
it's
real
real
simple. It's easy to follow. There's a free version.
Yep.
That's a cool.
Yeah,
thing
we used a free version for a while.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're
With a bunch of clients
paying for
before
it now, so
we needed to. Yeah, and it's pretty cheap, right? What is it? $100 a year?
something like that.
Yeah. So we'll take then, as far as measuring forward progress, we take the labels on the cards.
Okay.
And we make
like little
colors.
tags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you flip it over, there's these color labels.
Okay.
And you can just slap a color on the card.
Sure.
So we do red, and we label it as not started. So we might say, let's say stepping stone 2.
So it's a status.
So this is kind of like, let's say, our 1-year plan. By the end of the year, we're going to try to have the website done. Okay. So is it? Is it done or not? No. Okay. Is it started? Yeah. Is it halfway there? No. We started it. Okay. So not started is red. Mm-hmm. We have a label there, and we create the template for the client. And then we'll put right on there, red. Okay. Is it off the ground? Did you start it? Yeah. Okay. Now it's orange. And it says, it colors orange.
We're ready.
Yeah. So we're moving along. Are we halfway done? No. Okay. Or yes, we're about halfway there. Cool. So now we click it to yellow. And then light green, we're almost there. Dark green, we're done. So it's just red, yellow, green. And I got that from Alan Mulally from the book
American
Icon. Yeah, American Icon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he ran Ford from 2006 to 2012 or something like that. And he used that color system, really, really simple color system. He only used red, yellow, green. And I wanted to add a little more nuance to it.
A little bit more depth to it.
Yep. And then it's just kind of holding people accountable to the colors. Like, dude, where you at on this? And then we create rocks. So the next list.
Okay, so you're implementing the rocks into there.
Yep. Next list is just a list of rocks. Who has what rock? So each card is somebody's rock, somebody's project that's due at the next session, and they can use the same colors to show then progress on their rocks. Super simple. And when the rocks are done, we have a meeting and drag those cards off and put in the next list, which is the rock pile.
Got it.
So you can just kind of go, all right, what's done here? And then we'll make some other stepping stones, but they're out in the future, and they're going to take us to the land of awesome, but they're irrelevant. Yeah.
Yep.
Because the next one's the one we're headed to. So that's one way we do that. And then we have
Is it working for you?
Oh, it's perfect.
Now, you said all these clients who are having a tough time with their own project management while being engaged into this with what you guys are doing with them. Is it helpful or is it taking root?
Yeah, but they have trouble actually getting projects managed for their clients.
Okay.
You know, and having, they hire people to do projects.
Okay.
But what they're not doing well is, I would say they're 50-50 generally. Okay. I'm scanning across, 10
you're generalizing.
Clients. And I've just noticed that they are not, like, they don't have a really sharp pencil when it comes to getting projects crisply moving along.
Yeah.
Measuring progress.
Important.
Timelines, accountability. It's just fuzzy.
And these are businesses who are selling projects to their clients, or are they just managing relationships with like a project?
All of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Any general stuff, whether it's managing a project like getting a major addition or a major business line going, or putting in some kind of new equipment, or adding some kind of whole new way to market or a new way to sell or a new way to serve the client, or if it's actually the work they're doing with the client, a client.
Okay.
So tell me about some, like, first of all, some books out there. So if you were to say, man, if you're deep into project management, what?
Oh, geesh. I'm gonna have to dig into that. There's a bunch.
Yeah.
There's a ton.
Any come to mind?
Let me think on it for a second. Yeah, there's a bunch. And there's a ton of resources, but I mean, the PMI Institute is one just to start. That's like that's like your standard project management institute. So first, man, I mean, this is applicable to every organization because everyone uses it, and it's a good skill to have, or at least understand a framework for. What is a project? It has a start and a finish. So first and foremost, like, all right, what is the thing we're doing? Like, let's outline when this project is done, what happens. So like our project managers, they start out with a charter, and they'll create like a project charter. And there's a series of stuff when our account reps sell a certain thing, or even if it's an internal project. Let's establish what we're trying to do here. What's the framework? What's the outcome look like? When this project is done, what? Or in our case, when we're selling something to a client, it's like there was a limitation that they had that our product or service is a solution for. So let's first understand what's important to them. Let's understand, like, what are their goals? What are their outcomes, right? Yeah. So once you have that established, you go through the charter, and sometimes it's an implementation of something. Sometimes it's a process.
What do you call that first step?
Initiation. Yeah. So the 5 domains are initiation. Then there's like planning and discovery.
Okay.
Then there's execution, it's phase 3, and then monitoring.
Okay.
And then closing. Now you can shape it, and there's, some folks will sink that down into 4, but for all intents and purposes, like, those 5 domains are the 5 major phases of any project. So on initiation, you're ingesting, you're learning, you're engaging with them, you're trying to figure out, like, what is the bill of materials, what is the solution, what are we trying to figure out here, what's the timeline, is there an impending event, or how long does this thing take? Like, it could be a house build. All right, this house is going to take X amount. I'd like to have it done by X time because we're moving our building over to here and we have to move our people in. So you work from that date backwards. Hopefully it's been spec'd out well enough on the front end.
Yeah.
And then you're getting into your planning and development. So you're doing discovery, where, depending on the industry you're in or the project that you're trying to do, you're laying all the groundwork, you're planning, you're making the timelines, you're getting your resources together. Now there's a lot of like stuff that happens in between there. There's kickoff meetings internally just to establish your team. Like for us, we call it Project Green Lights. So that represents the account reps just sold a thing. So that's their handoff to us, to operations. So they're saying what they sold, who the client is, what's important to them, what limitations they have for the solution that we're providing.
Let me pause you right there. So many times folks just miss all that. They have all these assumptions. So as a project manager kind of going, hey, folks, we don't have these. Somebody needs to get back with the client.
Yeah.
And does a project manager, well, at least in your situation, does a project manager then go to the client and say, hey, can we just review these goals here? Can we review your strategic need for this gear, this stuff, this?
Depends on the business.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah.
It depends, like, if you guys have like a project management office or if it's kind of generic or how your business runs.
Yeah.
But from the front end, I at least us at TTX, that's all pre-sale stuff. So like as we learn, there's a life cycle, and we try to equip, both sides of the house to, hey, here are things we're learning from our projects at the end of this thing that would be helpful on these types of projects if these questionnaires were asked on the front end, or
on the sales side.
Yeah, on the sales side. Yeah, understanding like what you're selling. There's questionnaires, there's bill of materials, there if this then what? Like this factor might mean an extra $20,000, or it might mean like a completely different process, or it might mean something, and that's a big or a gotcha if you don't address that. So equipping that team pre-sales with all the front end work, so that when they're handing off projects, we know exactly by the end of that handoff meeting. So we call it, it's a quasi project acceptance meeting. We call it Project Greenlight, but by the end of that meeting, the goal is to have our project managers and our engineers, our implementation engineers, to accept it and say, yes, I have all the answers answered. I understand what this thing is. I understand the timeline. I have everything I need to be able to execute on this thing. Done. That's an internal. And there's a charter that goes through. It's a living document that goes through the entire life cycle of the project that these guys are keeping up to speed, and our guys are super organized. So then they would kick it off into like a client kickoff. So we would establish our internal team. Who are going to be the people that are going to be working on this, given like what's the skill set, what's the availability, capacity, timeline, et cetera. Who's needed for this? Who's needed to execute on this thing? Who are the stakeholders internally and externally, establishing
That's all in your charter?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yep.
Do you use a template for that charter?
Yeah. It's some it's morphed, but there was one I built. There's a lot of stuff that exists in the world. There's tons of resources you can grab, but I built one back in 2017-18 that was specific to our industry, like for it, and there's classes too. So based on complexity, based on the clientele, the size and scope of the project, we do it. We have our own little algorithm, I guess, but there's class 1s to 5s. So like a 5's a big Betty. So that's a big charter. There's a lot going into that charter. And those are longer meetings because there's a lot more to them. That's a longer, bigger, that's probably 100 plus hours for the type of work that we were doing. So then, after they've accepted that, they have an internal work plan session. And so a lot of the work we're doing is there's waterfall methodology, there's agile methodology, there's Scrum. So a lot of the stuff we're doing is waterfall. That means like this first phase has to happen before it drips down to the next phase, before it drips down to the next phase. So it's, we establish our team. The project managers meet with our internal resources, and they're establishing, hey, here's the work plan. And we like that we have work plan templates that represent 85% of the type of work we're doing for that given product. Okay. That's what I like to have the steps drawn out that represents about 85. Now, everyone's unique. We have to tailor it to the need of the client or whatever the project's going to be. So that they get that thing locked down, they start to establish timelines, like this thing has to happen before this thing happens, and here's the goal for XYZ. They're moving into this building, or we have to have this thing up by X, or this project takes 30 days and this project takes 120 days, whatever the case, and you kind of work backwards from that. And then you would do a kickoff with the client. So you're reviewing that work plan. There's steps for them. There's steps for us. We have the scope of work. So we're looking at the scope of work with the client. We're talking about like what we want to be doing with them. And then we go into initiation phase. So then it's like a lot of pre-planning. So there's calls. You set up a communication rhythm. So here's how we're going to be communicating with you: bi-weekly meetings or weekly meetings or every couple weeks. We're going to be using this software, and we're going to send you invites to the software so we can, so you can follow along and see and track our progress. But if there's tasks that we assign to you that you're responsible for, that you're also, held accountable to, and there's dependencies. So it's like, if this thing doesn't happen by X, and that was a kind of a really simplistic eye opener early on. There was, hey, it takes us 60 or 90 days to do this thing. Well, conversation happens, and all of a sudden it's a month later, but the end date didn't change. And so I was like, it's not so I took a piece of string and I took a pen. And so I took this string on one side and I pushed it. I kept pushing it. I was like, this is what we've been doing. I was like, but really the timeline is this. It's a pen. So if this thing pushes, this pushes out too. Like, there is an established timeline here. This is how long this thing takes. There's, it's not like you put a quarter in and the project's done. There's an amount, there's actual humans doing things that are required. And you always plan for a plan not going according to plan, right? So you have to account for what are the risks, what are the constraints, what are the, and we establish all that stuff on the front end in that PGL, that Project Greenlight meeting. So what are the things we might be concerned about? What are the things we might not know that we want to have established? You should, I can send you a ton of resources, and man, it'd be a cool, whether it's a podcast thing or just like having one of our project management team lead come in, Aaron. He's great. And I'm sure he can talk your ear off for hours and hours with all kinds of stuff. But that Kanban that you're talking about, that's a task management tool. There's a lot of tools out there. The tools are only as good as how they're configured, set up, and how well the people using them are trained, or the methodology that you want them to be using, and they're following that, and there's clarity there. But that's more of like a task management. Task management is something that's within project management. So in each one of those phases, there are multiple tasks. There's things that have a deadline. I need my engineer to do X, Y, Z, and then he can do the next thing. So there's dependencies. Like, this is dependent upon that. Like, I can't do this thing until this thing's done. In other types of businesses where it's agile, there's a lot of things happening at the same time. Like, this isn't dependent upon this. Like, this team could be doing this and this team could be doing this. And
is that the difference between agile and waterfall?
Yeah, agile is a little bit more fluid, and there's things happening at the same time. So you have a variety of clients, so there's going to be a lot of things that are applicable to them. But I think just getting them, if that is part of the role that you're trying to help equip them with, I think just giving them a framework to start with. The tools, there's a ton of tools out there.
Well, the thing about these most leadership teams is they're just not good at creating these, I'm going to call them macro processes.
Okay.
As in, here's how we're going to manage projects. Or here's a template or a cheat sheet for the general management of our project X or any project. It's very much it's just somebody's idea or somebody's like way. They've always done it this way. It's very ad hoc. Maybe is the best way to put it. They just can't seem to get dialed in.
Well, it's a discipline.
Well, and they don't hire people that understand this. They've just kind of evolved
That's a big deal.
to it.
That's a big deal.
Well, so all right, so you get through initiation. I want to go through these 5 phases, and I
Yeah.
want to ask you about hiring for project management.
Okay.
So initiation. So you did your charter. You got your, your
You
particulars.
ingested all of
Yep.
the front end stuff.
So this came from sales. It came from the client. You get handed off at some point.
Kickoffs, introductions.
Okay, and that's all in initiation
Yep.
phase.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how do you know you're in planning phase? Like what sort of things do you get done in initiation that lead you to planning?
Okay. Yeah. So you've had your kickoff calls. You've ingested everything you need from the front end sales. You understand your bill of materials. You understand the scope. All the paperwork has been signed off on. You have a framework of what you need to do. After you have that stuff, you'd move into a planning phase. So that's like, who is my team members? Creating some meetings with them to figure out like, hey, what's our work plan? Let's planning. So let's plan. Let's build a timeline. Let's meet with the client. Let's establish a kickoff call. Let's establish some rhythms with them. There's discovery in that planning phase. So depending on what type of project you're looking for or you're doing, there's a lot of front end work you might need from them to establish like, all right, well, what are you looking to do here? For instance, like for a phone system, there's a lot of front end design. So there's a lot of front end design and programming and planning, and there might be multiple vendors involved. And then you're moving into the execution. That's like, all right, we have all that we need, and we're going to start engineering these things or setting these things up, or we've ordered the parts and they're coming in and we're now configuring X, Y, Z. Executing in the construction realm would be where we have all of our bill of materials. They showed up on site, and now we're actually like putting hammers and nails, and we're doing something. Like that's the chunk. That's the meat. That's your meat right there.
The big part.
Yep, that's your big part. Is you're executing on your plan, on the plan that you had set out to execute on. Those are your doer steps, right? Then phase 4 is monitoring, controlling, or it could be like quality assurance. So like, all right, in our world, it's a go live happened. So like we have turned on a phone system, we've migrated something. There's a defining moment where like, okay, this thing's up and going. So monitoring, controlling, or quality is all the pre-cutover in our world, like the post-cutover, troubleshooting, the punch list items, making sure like testing parameters have been established and we've tested everything that we needed to test. We've gone through those things. We feel really good about it. It could be, more training that's required for software. And then really closing is the final step. So it's like, have we done what we said we were going to do? Is it working? Okay, let's hand you off to support. Let's have a project closeout meeting. Let's talk about what we did for you. And then internally, we have like a post-mortem. So that's after the project is done. That's something we, as a team, have not done as often as we'd like, but we're starting to do that a little bit more. It's super important. What went well? What didn't go as well? What are some missed opportunities? What are some things we could take with us to the next project? And is there anything we can learn that would be beneficial for the team of individuals putting together the front end pre-sales process stuff, or questionnaires, or, hey, we ran into this on this type of environment. It's really important that we put that into our questionnaire on the front end.
Yeah.
So there's a life cycle. There's always a life cycle. You never arrive. Were we on time? Were we on budget? Was the quality good? Did we do what we say we were going to do? Was there scope creep? If there is, how did we handle scope creep? Was there change orders happening throughout the life cycle of the project? So all of that.
Yeah, this is all.
Helpful, dude.
Yeah, very helpful.
Yeah.
And so one of the reasons I'm asking this, I look at leadership teams as managing all manner of projects that are like for instance, hiring somebody. hiring a senior, let's say a mid-level manager. So we hired a mid-level manager, and then several years later they're gone. Okay, so let's do a postmortem, and we have a great tool, that our own version of AAR, after action review.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah, and one of the first step is, well, what were our objectives when we hired person X? And a lot of times when we kind of postmortem something or AAR, folks look at me with a little bit of the deer in the headlights, like, oh, objectives, huh?
Yeah.
What were we trying to pull off? Did we write those things down? Like, they're very sloppy. People generally are very sloppy about this kind of thing. They're good at some very specific parts of the business, but this part they miss a lot, and it costs them a lot of money. It costs them a lot of life, and profit and all that other stuff. But to just start off with saying, we got this mid-level manager, we're gonna think of this as a project management tool, which is we're gonna kind of sell them the job. They're gonna sell us their talent and expertise, and we're gonna sell them the culture, and they're gonna sell us how they fit it. And then we do a handoff. I was like, okay, let's green light. I want to talk to Jody too.
Yeah.
What's Jody's title over there at TTX?
Well, he's got two. So he was hired in as Talent Acquisition Development Manager.
Okay, that's the one I'm after.
Yeah.
You just started the cabling division. He's running that.
He did, yeah. So he's director of structured cabling. So he's kind of wearing two hats right now.
Well, and you guys, Jody is very good at being very, very broadly excellent. Recruiting.
And he's a multi-tool.
Interviewing.
Yeah,
I love it. And most business operators are not that good at recruiting, interviewing, attracting talent.
Yep.
They don't make it a big investment, but they complain about it when it goes bad.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly how we got him too. I mean, we're a relatively small business. We knew we wanted Jody, but we didn't have a role. We're like, man, how do we get him? And he's so talented, like he could essentially play any role. We wanted him to, but one of the areas we realized that takes a lot of time that we're not very good at, or we didn't have time to focus into, was the hiring aspect of it. So I knew what I wanted. So when he came on board, he's obviously got a ton of experience in the industry anyway, in business, but in this, in the industry we're in. But so he and I developed like a 4-part interviewing or process, I guess you would say. So whatever tools he wanted to use to recruit or to pull from pools, it was a 4-part. So he's looking through our resumes, and he's talking to folks, or folks are sending him stuff, and he'll look through, and if catches his eye, he'll have a 15-minute kind of screening call with them. After that 15-minute call, I think he's asking the right questions to figure out if it's worthy of having the second call. The second call is a core value call. So it's not necessarily like he's on the nose, like talking to them specifically about our core values, but he's asking them questions just to kind of see if he believes that they're a core value fit.
Yeah, because we want to set it up a little bit.
Yeah, we want to lead with that. If they make it through that, then he has a technical call with them, where he usually pulls in one of our engineers, or if it's on the sales end, he'll pull in one of the sales guys, or Nate, the VP of sales. And and they'll just kind of figure out if this, like, what are the chops? Like does this guy know what he's talking about? Is he, they'll throw a couple questions at him. They'll have another hour-long conversation with them. If they make it through that, then on my side, he'll then invite me into a call. So he's like, hey, I got one. So he'll bring them on site for me to interview. If they make it that far, it's more of a formality and just to see if, like, myself and them dance well together. Brandon's also a part of that. So our CEO sits in, and they get to hear from both of us, and we get to kind of talk. It's very casual. There's been obviously 3.5 hours of conversation at that point. I have a little, what is it, acronym for myself? So it's Latch. So I tell Jody, like, I wanted to hit Latch. Like, who are people I can latch onto? And that
LATCH?
Yeah. So it's loyal, available, teachable, coachable, and then hungry and humble.
Yeah.
So it's like in these 3.5 hours of conversations with them, and he's got it framed out the way he frames them out. But do they check those boxes? Do you feel like they'd be loyal to our purpose, like what we're up to, man? Like, are they excited about our cause? Like, are they jazzed about not only just the IT industry, but what we're trying to do, who we're trying to be? Do they seem like they avail themselves to opportunity? Are they an available person? Are they going to be approachable? Are they someone who's like real standoffish and arrogant and is a know-it-all? Are they teachable? And there's a difference between teachable and coachable. And then the last one's hungry and humble. So there's a double there.
Yeah.
So have you gotten the sense, and Jody's a good judge of character, have you gotten the sense that this person's like hungry? They're chomping at the bit to get after this thing, and they, and do they posture in a spirit of humility, or they seem like an ass? Mm-hmm. That's all those things. Are they someone I want to latch onto?
Is that German?
What?
Ass?
Probably. Yeah.
Have you seen Saving Private Ryan?
Yeah.
Fubar? It's German.
Yeah, it's German.
I love that. Love that whole thing. It's my favorite movie. Dude, this side note.
Yeah.
If you could only have 5 movies ever.
Oh.
And you were going to get stranded on a desert island and you have a DVD player.
Okay.
Then 5 DVDs.
Yeah. Actually.
Just off the top of your head. Although you probably have it written down.
I have it written down. I have it written down. Man, I'm a weirdo like that. Oh, geesh.
That's why I asked you. I figured you would have something right there.
Okay. I can give you 3 pretty easily. These 4 or 5 will be tough. Dances with Wolves, one of my favorite movies.
That's a great one.
I love it.
That's a great one.
I love it. This one's not for everyone. Paul Thomas Anderson. Magnolia. So it's like a 3-hour movie.
Wow.
It's deep.
I haven't seen that.
So check this out, man. I saw this as a 19-year-old kid, maybe 18, 19. I was freshman year of college. I saw it in the theater. It's like 3.5 hours long. I walk out of that, and I was like, what the hell was that? That movie sucked ass.
Oh, wow.
That was a waste of time. And then, I'm processing it 3 days later. I'm like, man, that's the best movie I've ever seen.
Wow.
I've never had that happen. Where I was like, that movie, so what the hell would I just see? And then I'm like, wow, that's the best movie I've ever seen. And then the more I got into it, I was like, wow, there's so much there.
Magnolia?
Magnolia, yeah. Tom Cruise is in it. It's got a crazy cast. It was at the height of his, fandom, too.
Huh.
Yeah, there's some Exodus stuff in there. There's a day in a life. Have you ever seen the movie Crash? There's a lot of stories that intersect.
Yeah, I don't know if I have. I don't recall.
Yeah, it's a day in a life. There's some father-son stuff going on there. Intertwined storylines that are happening. And then I think, Amy Mann from Till Tuesday? You know her. You know some songs from Till Tuesday.
Well, I know, the band. Yeah, okay.
So Amy Mann did pretty much the whole soundtrack.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and there was a line in one of her songs that the director, Paul Thomas Anderson, said he took that line from one of her songs and wrote it into the script, and he wrote it forward and he wrote it backwards from that line. He also wrote this... he wrote Tom Cruise's part for Tom Cruise without asking him yet. And he was the biggest deal at the time. This is 98. Hoping that he would take the part. It's incredible. And so even his introduction into the movie was big and huge. It was awesome. I think the other one would be Intouchables.
Intouchables?
Yeah, it's a foreign film. So they redid it a couple years ago with Bryan Cranston and Kevin Hart, called what was it called? You know what I'm talking about? It was okay. It's not as good as Intouchables, though. It's a true story. It's about a paraplegic who is looking for an assistant, an aid.
I've seen the remake of it.
Yeah.
Is it The Upside?
The Upside.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And The Upside's cool. It's good, but The Untouchables is great, man.
Interesting.
And that's a true relationship. I mean, that was a real deal relationship. They're still friends to this day. I'm looking at the rest of these on my top 10. There's a really cool film called The Beasts of the Southern Wild. It was the youngest gal to be nominated for an Oscar. She's like a 7 or 8 year old girl. It's a $1 million budget.
Wow.
Done in New Orleans. It's allegory. It was pretty cool because it was such a low budget film that they just took the shots they took, and when they felt like it was ready to go, they were like, yeah, good to go. They didn't have the technology down where they were filming. They used local people as actors. I mean, there were some actors in there, actors and actresses, but that's a pretty cool film. Soundtrack's awesome too. And what else would I give you? You ever seen Captain Fantastic?
Yeah.
You have? You have? Yeah, that's up there for me, man. Great Expectations, Fisher King, Young at Heart. Yeah, there's a handful of them, but those are all great, man.
Those are all great.
What about you? What are your top 5? You had to be
right off the bat, it'd be Saving Private Ryan. I've watched that so many times. Love it for a lot of reasons. And I love Dances with Wolves. That would probably be up there. Yeah. I'm just thinking of ones I've watched frequently. Gladiator is a good one for me. The Accountant.
Oh, really?
I totally
Yeah, that's a cool movie. That's one of your favorite. That's one of your top 5s?
I don't know if it'd be top 5
it's
or not. Just off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's cool.
I love all that. The peanut butter Falcon.
Yeah.
I think you turned me onto that.
Yeah, that one's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
That's a special one.
I like Greatest Game Ever Played.
Yeah.
Shia.
Sure. Yep.
Shoot.
Shia making it twice in your top 5.
Yeah, he's really something.
He's a wild dude.
Yeah. I love Fury, by the way.
Yeah,
Talking about Shia again.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt. I love Brad Pitt shows. I like Legends of the Fall.
Yeah,
I like a lot about that.
Me too. Big time.
River Runs Through It.
Last of the Mohicans.
Last of the Mohicans is crazy good. I like Daniel Day-Lewis.
I do too. He's my favorite actor of all time.
Yeah. Have you seen There Will Be Blood?
Yes, of course.
It's a strange
That's
movie.
Paul Thomas Anderson also from
Yeah.
Magnolia.
Yeah.
Same director.
That's really interesting.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis is a method actor.
Yeah.
So he really gets into his parts.
You seen My Left Foot?
Yes.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
It's
In the Name of the Father, you ever seen that one?
I don't think I have.
See that one. Write that down.
Yeah.
In the Name of the Father, Daniel Day-Lewis. That's a great one.
I don't recall if I've seen that.
Yeah, he's imprisoned, IRA.
I have seen that.
He's in prison with his dad, wrongfully accused for some bombs. I think it's a true story. Yeah, that was a cool one. Yeah, he's an alien, man. That guy is his level of talent's unreal. I mean, I've read stories about him not breaking character. Like for Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
So for Lincoln, he supposedly got a house without electricity or water to get into the character. He doesn't. So even when acting's done and they're having meetings, he won't get out of character.
Yeah.
And Sally Field, who plays his wife in Lincoln, almost quit because she couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those method actors are wild. I think for Last of the Mohicans, he carved a canoe out of wood. He really gets into it. You know what I mean? He wants to understand, what is it like to put on the skin of this character in this time and really play it
That's
as
amazing.
true to form as he possibly can. Yeah, it'd be cool. Be cool to be an actor and have to go through all that stuff and learn all those things.
Well, thanks for that. I'm always interested in what you especially. You have such an interesting mind, and you're sharp as a tack, dude.
That's a very different list
Love it, yeah.
than some of the others we've heard.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you always ask a question?
Not always, but it comes
often?
up. Yeah.
When I'm camping, with guys, and we're sitting around, and it's like, all right, we've been talking for 2 or 3 days. I'm like, what else could we talk about? I'll bring in the movie deal. Top albums, top books, top movies.
I got an interesting question for you.
Okay.
So I hate the "what is your favorite song" question because that's tough, dude.
Yeah.
But you've seen Troy.
Yes.
I like this question. And David and Goliath. So it's like two armies are coming together, and they're like, put your best dude out. So Troy's like, all right, let's save all these people. Let's put your best dude fourth. We'll let these two guys battle it out. We'll save the rest of them. I'm not asking for your favorite song, and I'm Shane, you're in on this too. What song do you put into the ring to battle all other songs?
Well, that's a great question.
Isn't that cool?
I would probably take something off of 90125 by Yes. Like Changes
That's a cool song.
or Hold On. I might take something from Tool.
Oh, wow.
Not Numa. I can't remember the name of the album. The latest album.
Yeah, that one was cool. Brandon just turned me on to that.
Oh, it's such a good album. There's
Yeah,
some
it's
really
cool.
weird stuff on there,
It's
but there's
wild.
some of the songs are just freaking crazy.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I mean, first thing came to mind though was 10 Years Gone by Led Zeppelin.
Ooh. So that's your first. That's the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, go with that.
Yeah.
What about you, buddy?
First thing that came to mind was really weird.
Yeah.
It was a Beatles song,
Okay.
Hard Day's Night,
Okay. Tell me.
because of that
more.
first chord.
Tell me more. Because of the first chord.
The first chord, yeah.
So you guys probably know this song. Here's mine. Here's my answer to this. It's been consistent. Again, I wouldn't say this is my favorite song. Not even my favorite band. Do you know that old 90s Mazzy Star Fade Into You? That's the song I chose.
Yeah. That's a great one.
Yeah, it has all the components for me.
Yeah.
It's like timeless. It hits me in a couple different moods.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's got
very
all
rich.
it's got
It's a
all the
rich song.
stuff that I'm like, man, I'd put that out there
Yeah.
to battle all the other songs.
Yeah.
Oh, now
I
you're
love
making me
music,
think.
man.
You know that song, At Last?
Yeah, dude. Yes.
That is-
Yeah. You know, as I think about this question that I came up with, by the way, it's the way I like to ask it. You wouldn't think this when you ask it, but when you listen to these songs, you're like, that's a pretty damn good song. Louis Armstrong, What a Wonderful World, and Otis Redding, Sitting at the Dock of the Bay. When I hear those songs, I'm like, man, that's a good song.
Timeless. Yeah.
That's a good song. It's got all the stuff. It's got a lot of stuff.
Are you a fan of Rick Beato on YouTube?
Yeah,
They're great.
I don't know tons of stuff, but Brandon turned me on to him.
Yeah. He's doing a lot of that.
Yeah.
Pulling songs apart.
Yes,
Top 20, this and that.
dude.
You know.
Do you have Spotify or Apple?
Yep. Spotify.
Okay. Do you remember back in like COVID era when Brandon had that list of
Yeah.
the 9 of us? So his game,
Yeah.
where he's so for the audience or whoever's listening or watching, there was 9 people on a text thread, right? So he it was a way to engage and keep our guys just kind of chatting. It's a music thread, and he had a theme, and each of us had 1 week to submit 5 songs, and then he'd curate it into a list, and he'd pick a new guy on Friday night, and that guy would pick a new theme. It's an app now. So Justin Rife, you remember Justin
Yeah,
Rife?
sure.
He just sent me something the other day. It's on Spotify. They turned it into an app. It's called like League of something.
That's fun.
Yeah. And it's cool. So what they're doing is, so I joined it. You can join whatever league you want. And there's like 1 round or 10 rounds, and each round is different. And you can have like 1 to 2 or 3 submissions per round. And then they curate it into a playlist and then share it with the group. Wow. And you can comment on it. And I'm like, I told BK the other day, I'm like, dude, they turned your game into an app.
That's
like
funny.
it's a thing now.
That's
it's
great.
like, yeah, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Kind of fun to do with people I don't know.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different stuff. So I'll like look through these leagues and see what their rounds are. And I'm like, that seems kind of cool. I'll join that one.
Yeah. One of the threads I remember was covers. I think because we passed around, remember, the theme to the different guys.
Yeah.
And the one that I did was favorite top 5 covers that you feel like were better than the original.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have that playlist.
It was
saved.
One of the ones off the top of my head. There's a King's X does. You know who King's X is? Oh, dude, they're great. So. They're a top 100 metal band, Billboard metal band. They're kind of old school 3-piece metal band, sort of Sweet. Light on metal, but they cover manic depression, and they rock it. It's so good. That's one of my favorite covers. And then the Waylon Jennings cover Old Man.
It's so good.
Yeah,
such a great cover.
You still have Apple?
Yeah.
Okay. I love making playlists. That thing turned me onto it.
Yeah.
I spent a couple months making a playlist or a playlist for just covers. This thing got robust. It was like 200 songs.
Okay, you got to send that over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll send it over. It's awesome.
Yeah.
In fact, I had to make like a B list because like for the shitties. Like after I listened to it one time through, I'm like, I'll throw the shitties in this other one.
Everclear does Brown Eyed Girl. It's so good. Sarah Jaraz covers Ring Them Bells, Bob Dylan. So good. Yeah. I mean, all the originals are all great, obviously, but I like the covers better.
Yeah. Those are the one that's in the category of covers that I like better than the original.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Super interesting, man.
This concludes part 1 of our interview with Joshua Pietrocini. Thanks again for watching and listening to the Business Broken to Smoking podcast. And make sure to click subscribe